How does the shadow show up? Oh, this is a fun one. This is a fun one. The shadow shows up in multiple ways, and myself included. So I'm not coming from a place of superiority. Let's be clear. As my longtime partner, as my kids, as my family, as even some of y'all can attest to, the shadow does come out, but that's a part of what makes us human. The trick is to understand what it means, how we can support it, believe it or not, how we can show love to it, and how we can integrate it. Let's talk about number 2. The shadow shows up in a few different ways that are kind of telltale signs that the shadow's coming out. One that I found is extreme emotions. Like saying, hey, you know what? I hate this person. I hate them. I hate them. I hate what they stand for. Shout out to DMX. I hate their haircut. I hate their face. I just hate everything about them. Rest in peace to DMX. He was talking about another rapper. Even if you don't get that reference, the other person, which is called the other, I think Young might have been the first person that talked about that extensively. But again, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. The other represents all those things that you don't like, but often represent those things about yourself that you repress. So if you're super broke, been there before. If you're super broke and you're like, you know what? I hate people that got money. Not saying you hate billionaires and all that. Well, separate from the capitalist discussion, which whole different episode. But if you're like, nah, man, I hate people that got money. They act like they're all that. That might represent that shadow that you have to say, man, I wish I had money and it just didn't work out the way that I planned it. It's not the position I planned on being in. Again, I can relate. But sometimes that energy is really being mad about the situation you're in, the shadow of it, versus what the other person is doing, which sometimes is nothing. If there's someone I'll give you an even better example. If you ever have a friend and you connect them with another friend, right? I have multiple friend circles. So you might have had a birthday party or something where people interact and they intermingle and all that stuff, right? You got different cliques and all that, but I've lived all across the country. I've hung out in different places around the world too, and I know people, you know what I mean? So it's like it's a mishmash. You don't know how people are going to get along. That's what I'm trying to say. And you introduce one friend to another friend, or they go get a drink together and then suddenly they're mingling over at the party. Have you ever been in that situation where at separate times after they interacted, your friend will come back to you and say, you know what? I don't like so-and-so. And you'll be like, well, why don't you like, I thought y'all would get along. No, so-and-so's like really opinionated. They got such strong opinions and I don't like that. They seem pushy. And then the other friend comes to you another occasion after they hung out and says the exact same thing. And you have this moment where you're like, y'all are freaking twins. You can see it, but they can't see it. So the part of themselves that they don't like, they're seeing it on the other person, which is another way that it comes out. Not only as far as, number one, extreme emotions, like I hate something, I dislike something, I can't stand whatever. Once it starts with that, usually has to do with some darkness in ourselves. That's one. Unprocessed darkness. Number two, as I was getting at, there's also a level of projection. This person is doing that. Why are they doing that? I don't like that. I don't like that. But it might be a thing of you actually want to do it. That's what your instinct says. But something along the way stopped you from giving yourself permission to do that. I know I have my particular triggers. It's not even from a place of shame. I'm not even going to belabor you with like the 10 or so triggers that I have. Actually, if you've read my books, you probably know most of them. And it's like, but I know that comes from my heritage, the way I was raised, me being a middle-aged black man, whatever I've taken on, and whatever I think fits inside me or doesn't fit, I feel restricted. And those things that I don't like that I see in other people, other groups, they don't feel restricted. They feel really, really excited to go ahead and do this thing. You know what I mean? And they're like able to go forward. Hey, thank you. Thank you for saying hi in the chat. I appreciate that. Again, Amazon has a different chat thing going on, but I appreciate you, Mr. Chat. Thank you for coming through. His last name is Chat. And so sometimes it ends up being the other. Now, right now, we got two major wars going on. We got some other wars going on, particularly in Africa. I was just talking to someone about this the other day. We got so much stuff going on. It's really easy to slip into the othering. I was talking about Moxie and me doing the political stuff with them. Really easy to slip into the othering. We're just here in America 3 years ago. And then we were here in America around the time that my second son was born 8 years ago. Same type of energy. I don't think we ever left that energy going back to 2016, where it was so obvious. But the othering has already happened. Again, being a middle-aged African-American, a lot of my family history is dotted with othering too. And it's still dotted with othering. And so that's another part of it. The third part of it, number one, we have the extreme emotions. Number two, we have the projection. The third thing I think will be the denial. And saying, oh no, I'm not like that at all. Someone I care about always says how open-minded they are. But then when we actually have a moment where they need to be flexible, they're not flexible at all. And it's like, what? But so the desire and the social mask, which is the word I was looking for earlier, the social mask represents open-mindedness, but the foundation is actually an inflexibility. That's the shadow. So denying, it's like, no, I'm flexible. No, actually you're not. Not when it comes to actual situations. And until that shadow's kind of dealt with, again, it's the one that's at the wheel. If you want to understand your shadow and dealing with it a little bit more, I think a great place to start would be one of my favorite books right now. I mentioned it a few years ago, probably like a month ago, earlier episode. I think it's one on tough times, which came out about a month and a half ago. Pema Chodron, my homie. You don't know me, but I absolutely know you. Welcoming the unwelcome. I hope you're wonderful wherever you are. Fantastic book. It talks about the different processes we can do to give, again, love to our shadow selves. I don't think she uses the word shadow that often in here, but that's definitely the energy of it, for sure. And one of my favorite parts about it is actually at the very end, where she talks about something called laser, L-E-S-R. And in fact, I can throw it in the chat, but it's L-E-S-R. In fact, I'll throw it in the chat right now. We'll do it live. I got from my years as temping. You type pretty fast. Embrace. Back myself up today. Here we go. For Richard Warsh. I always screw up his name spelling. I've quoted him in my book. I want to say the by Stone. There we go. All right, you got your comment there. There we go. This is called Laser. Locate, embrace, stop, and remain. It's from Richard Warsh, but it's via Pema Chodron. That's how I learned about it. So laser, pronounced like laser, stands for locate, embrace, stop, remain, and is a practice developed by Richard Warsh, a well-known human rights worker and a former president of Shambhala International. You can use it as a concise and easy to remember way of combining some of the practices in this book for welcoming the unwelcome, in the name of the book. Whenever you feel yourself getting worked up or having any unpleasant, uncomfortable, or stuck feelings, follow these 4 steps. Locate it. Investigate where that grasping, contracted sensation dwells in your body and make contact with it. Number 1. Number 2, embrace it. Embrace that feeling, that sensation, that contraction. One way of doing this is by following instruction to send any fearful, grasping, self-protective feelings, your unconditional warmth. In other words, to give love to that part of you that is feeling that way. That's your shadow. This can be similar to calming an hysterical child. The main point is to reverse the ancient human tendency to avoid and reject pain. Instead, you move forward with heart, or you move towards it with heart. Number three. Can't count today. 3, stop the storyline. I got to work on this one because my background is journalism. This is a tough one. Stop works for the acronym, but I think of this step more as letting go of, interrupting, or looking directly at the thoughts and stories. The idea is not to stop thinking altogether, which isn't possible. I've tried. But to go beneath and behind your thoughts to contact the underlying sense of being hooked. Hooked on a feeling, shout out to 70s radio, hooked to a story, hooked to being the victim of a particular narrative. You can learn a lot just by having a direct, non-conceptual experience of being hooked, even if it only lasts for a moment. Once you've connected to that raw feeling, you can then continue to interrupt the stories and keep returning to the experience again and again. Having a regular meditation practice will help you tremendously with this step. There you go. Yep. There you go. And looks like J-Lo code came through. I don't think it's the J-Lo, but a J-Lo. Thank you for coming through on Amazon. And thanks for the engagement, Mr. Chat. All right. So number 1, we have locate, embrace, stop, and the last one is remain. Stay present with the feeling. Keep going until it shifts or until it feels like too much of a struggle. Been there. You don't have to wait until you feel overwhelmed. This is not an endurance trial. Just remain with the feeling with kindness and warmth, leaning in as much as you can. What often happens at this time is you discover how painful the feeling is and realize you don't want to continue to do that to yourself. Let me repeat that. What often happens at this time is that you discover how painful the feeling is and realize that you don't want to continue to do that to yourself. It has nothing to do with other people. It has to do with your stuff. This can soften you up considerably. It can also make you more accessible to see and hear other people. Frankly, my sidebar, sometimes the chatter in your brain or in your heart or in your mind or in your stomach, whatever, it's too loud for you to hear other people. That's where the projection comes from. But they might not actually be saying or doing what you think they are. Your mind can play tricks on you. This kind of gets you grounded with that. It can give your natural intelligence and openness a chance to emerge. Fantastic. This is actually the end of the book. The whole book is fantastic. Again, shout out to Pema. Shout out to, I believe it's Dr. Richard Rorsch. Fantastic work. Remember, it's laser. This is a way that you can get back to, I would call it get back to home. Get back to that place of love. Get back to that place of centeredness and work with that. If you're on Amazon, I think I just clicked it. You go and check out Welcome, None, Welcome. If you want to learn more about that book. A fantastic book. I've read it over the past month. I think I started reading it when I introduced it to y'all 5-6 weeks ago. I'm about to read it again. Like, this is it's like a really good jazz album. You just start it over again, and it's like you didn't finish it. It just keeps going very, very beautifully. A good way to do this as well is to have some type of journal. Now, I have 2 degrees in journalism. Of course, I'm advocating for a journal, so I know my bias there for sure. Like, I'm not gonna pretend like everyone's gonna want to write a book or have a thesis. Oh, there we go. Disappeared for a second for again. Okay. All right. The ghost of Carl Jung isn't haunting me anymore. We good? All right. Glad we're good. But journaling. Shout out to Bogota. I got it while I was down there. Shout out to Leonardo. I hope you're doing well down there, and thanks for bringing me down. I was doing my keynotes and representing Bogota, Colombia down there. But whatever you use, I have like a ton of these little books. And sometimes I write in them a little bit, sometimes I don't write in them a lot. But it allows me to, again, take it out of my head and actually process it somewhere else. Again, the laser technique I just talked about, if you missed it, it's all in the links below, or you can just rewind it. Right? I was thinking about a couple of rap lyrics that would work, but they're not appropriate for right now. But if you want to hear the game, just rewind it. About 10 minutes. And I talk about the laser technique. This is part of that energy to say, okay, let me go ahead and take responsibility for the energy that I have. Shout out to Chet who said that in the chat. With great power comes great responsibility. We all have great power as human beings. We all do. Every single one of us. I mean, we're here. We made it. You get to the science of it, but the chances of us making it to be full-grown adults is tiny, even just to make it out the womb. So we have this great power, and with that comes the responsibility to understand how we're impacting our world and how, frankly, we're loving ourselves. Journaling, again, it doesn't have to be this particular journal, though. They have a sale going on, and it looks like an awesome journal. Check it out if you want to. Grab a notepad. Write something down. Talk to somebody about it if you're more vocal. I do all of them. I meditate when I'm good on it. When I'm on it, I meditate in the morning. I write things down. I talk to my close companion about stuff, like whatever process you need to go ahead and build up that objectivity and to see your shadow for what it is. I say take it and run with it and have a beautiful time with it. If you're more of a visual person, or if you want to really get into the deeper stuff beyond this episode of Bring Your Worth TV, be sure and check out my mega episode, Begin Emotional Intelligence with Brene Brown. Brene Brown for beginners. So you probably heard of Brene Brown, been super popular over the last decade and a half in the space of guilt, shame, and those deeper emotions that we don't actually want to deal with, right? And thank you, chat. Yeah, it is facts. We all have all kinds of power. My whole point is that with Brene Brown, she was able to elevate that conversation. There are a lot of emotional intelligence people before her. Shout out to Daniel Goleman and a lot of folks that were killing it back when I was much younger, back when I didn't have the gray hair. Brene Brown has been that person for that generation, this generation though, as far as bringing that energy. I break down a lot of her biggest theories. I want to say it's about 5 or 6 theories of hers that I break down. And similar to what I'm doing right now, but it's in an edit format. It's not live, so it's very concise. If you want to go deeper into emotional intelligence, check it out. And I have lots of episodes that are about Brene Brown, so feel free to go to Bring Your Worth TV, bringyourworth.tv, check it out. And I think I have about 25 episodes about Brene Brown. Have fun. Go deep into it. Do not be afraid of your shadow. Otherwise, your shadow's gonna be running things. It's kind of like opening up the closet when you're a kid. You look in there and you realize it wasn't as scary as your imagination thought. I'm entrepreneur and entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown. Hello. I help y'all as non-traditional entrepreneurs, side hustlers, solopreneurs, otherwise non-traditional entrepreneurs, as I said at the top. This Bring Your Worth TV comes to you live on Wednesdays at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You subscribe for free. Check it out, see what's happening. If you want to get into my work, I have the complete Bring Your Worth collection, which collects a lot of my books. It's a serious bargain, guys. You can also listen to it, the audiobook, for free here at Bring Your Worth TV. Just click that after this, hit play. You got 8 hours of entertainment, strictly audiobook. So go on your walks. It's really mountainous here in Vegas. You might not know that. So I'll go on hikes and just listen to people's audiobooks. I'm trying to hook you up like that as people have hooked me up. It's for free. Enjoy.